Hi, and welcome back to Inspiring Honesty. Thank you for joining us once again and for bearing with last week when I wasn't able to make it. Today, I'm sorry, I almost forgot my tagline here. I'm your host, Greg Brahe, and I'm an atheist. All right. Today, I'm going to be joined once again by my marvelous co host, Bob Greaves, who I'm excited to spend more time with today after our show. Of course, he has his show, and then we're going to come back together for another discussion later this evening on The Place with Dr. Jones and Rhonda. And I think Joey might be there as well. But it's going to be a good conversation on that one. I'm hoping. We do have a few more presuppositionalist apologists that are coming to the show, but we've at least tried to agree to talk about their theology instead of my epistemology. So I'm looking forward to that. Let's see where that one goes. Today, on the other hand, I wanted to look a little bit more introspectively, since we're going to talk about their theology. I wanted to consider my camp's tactics and get your help and Bob's help to see what we might be able to do better. You see, in the last few episodes of Inspiring Honesty, we've talked about honesty, how we can be more honest, and tribalism, the tendency of humans to divide ourselves in group and out group, us and them, factions, if you will. So today, I wanted to look at my tribe, the atheists, and see what you think and what we can come together by thinking we are doing wrong. So on that note, Bob, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
How are you doing
Thank
today?
you. It's great to be here. I enjoy what we do and chit-chatting about it all, and I like the issue that we have had here with both honesty and the tribalism. So, you're going to surprise me, I guess, with some of the questions because we haven't talked about it. So I'm looking forward to even that.
So the thing that inspired me to talk about this topic today is because I have a few friends who get upset about some of the things that I'll share on my Facebook page or the things that we'll talk about in the show, because they feel it's too confrontational, or because I think one of the aspects of it that gets neglected a bit, and this has actually been pointed out to me, is that we focus too much on the negative, the reasons why we shouldn't be other things, but not why we should be the things that we're advocating for, where we should be, in my case, a skeptic, an atheist, a secular humanist, all of the many hats that I wear. We don't give enough good reason to switch camps and to get people to leave their tribes behind. So what has been your take? I know you spend a lot of time online and in other venues, but how do I fit as a representative sample of the other atheists you've dealt with online in the past, read books about anything of that nature?
I can talk with you now. Atheists come in a continuum of ease in getting along with them. There are people who you might even categorize as fundamentalist atheists. I tend to not get along well with anybody who's a fundamentalist anything. But I find that the thing that I have liked about the relationship you and I have is that we talk about things. We don't even always agree, but we're respectful in terms of just to the degree that we talk about things and how we. My wife just brought me an awesome glass of water.
I have my big giant red water bottle again. I like watching back through the old shows and seeing myself with this thing like covering up my entire face.
Yeah, but I'd say that we talk and we have never required of each other an agreement. We have pleasantly surprised ourselves sometimes in the ways that we agree, and I think we've even surprised ourselves in the way that we disagree. One of the things I thought was kind of funny was amusing, I should say, was when we first started talking about honesty. I thought you took a position that was actually closer to traditional Christianity, and I took a position that was actually closer to some traditional atheism, and I thought that was amusing, that that we did that. But I think it shows that we're both free thinking individuals, that we can have a chit chat. But anyway, so you obviously wouldn't be here doing what you're doing on a network that is obviously in operating with various different believers involved, unless there was somehow a genuineness and an openness on both your part and our part to do this without requiring of each other that we betray our freedom to conclude responsibly and own that as our own.
I asked the same question to Dave Silverman when I interviewed him after the show with Eric and Cy. That was obviously the American atheists have a very different tack and approach than I do in trying to bring up these questions and doing these things. And I had to ask, in many ways, I think that the billboard campaigns and some of the lawsuits and some of the other things that they do are only focusing on the negative and are actually, in that sense, casting atheists in a light of basically naysayers, negative Nellies, or contrarians, if you'd like to use Christopher Hitchens' term, the people who are just sort of fighting against the establishment. And
well,
I don't know if that serves
don't you
well.
think that happens in a you're breaking up, so I can't tell if I'm interrupting you or not, but is it can I speak now, or were you still talking? I couldn't tell. It was breaking
Nope,
up.
you are wide open now.
Okay. I think that, the very fact that we've even been talking about tribalism, that, and then you mentioned, your tribe, sometimes when someone is speaking with passion from a standpoint, no matter what that is, and then along comes a newbie and they hear this person speaking with passion, sometimes the newbie will latch on to that passion in a far more narrow, single-minded manner than the person actually speaking with passion has. And as a result, it's kind of like, there's, if you've ever been around an ex-smoker, that can be worse than being around somebody who just doesn't smoke, and there's a sense in which a person who's been converted to theism or converted to atheism, they can sometimes be overly rambunctious. And but also, when we try to discuss who we are and what's distinctive about us, we can sometimes, I think, convey the false impression that that this is what we're about, when really sometimes this is just what distinguishes us from others. So I think that sometimes when atheists speak, their naysaying is something that might distinguish them in some ways. But I really doubt that the vast majority of atheists live their lives even focusing on the question.
So, what does the New Covenant group do? What should we be doing to give people a reason to leave what they're comfortable with? I guess that's the question that's been really bothering me lately is, churches do a lot of community building and a lot of service and cohesion oriented things. And I think that there's something to be said with, of course, fighting against the harm done by something else. But
yeah.
If we want people to move away from things, there's got to be more, something that makes them want to do it instead of just pointing out the things that they don't want to do. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, maybe I'm not clearly getting what it is you're headed at, but let me say this in response. I don't mind saying things that someone else, upon hearing, might find in it reason to leave, but I'm not really interested in persuading people to leave anything. I'm interested in talking about truths, about what we can know, and different ways of looking at things, and an openness to differences. And if people, upon hearing this, make the decision for themselves that it's time to let go of something or leave something or move along, I want that to be their decision. To me, I'm not interested in that being an aspect of duress. And in some sense, I think that people can let go of something a lot easier when there's no pressure to do so. And I think sometimes people can hold on to something a lot better when there's no pressure to hold on. You know?
I guess I mean I agree with you. Obviously with the general sentiment, sort of the live and let live idea. Just
Well, no, I
pointing out
mean
the
not
things
just
that
live
we're.
and let live, because I'm not talking about some just keeping the peace because it's not worth fighting over. I mean, let's vigorously discuss what's true. But the thing is this: if you're going to leave something, it's far better that you leave it because you are convinced that leaving it is the right thing to do, and this is the time to do it. Rather, because if you leave something because someone else has pressured you, I don't think you're going to be leaving for the right reasons. And I don't know that that leaving is going to be as effective. You're either going to leave it ineffectively and move on to something else just as blindly, or you're going to leave it so ineffectively that when somebody comes back around and gives you a couple of what feels like good reasons and other pressure to go back, you're going to go back. So there's a sense in which I guess what I'm asking is I want people to make decisions that are based upon what they can own as a viable, meaningful decision. And I'm interested in vigorously discussing the things that can give them the tools and the information upon which that decision can be based. But I would want them to do the processing of that decision on their own.
I mean I agree. Yeah, I'm sorry. Live and let live probably
So, but
wasn't
what?
the.
Yeah, but in that though, being vigorous in discussion, and recognizing that we want to be kind, but we don't want to shy away from relevant issues. Now, you say some people say you're too negative, or sometimes they might criticize you for being too
Focusing
negative.
too much on the negative, as I think the point that I'm trying. Oh, excuse me, my leg's
Yeah.
cramping here. The point that I'm trying to get at with the, I guess the whole conversation today is, I've been embroiled in a lot of drama lately within the atheist community, and I've been noticing it all over the place. I think that the internet, in and of itself, is a great place to gripe about stuff, and to get other people to gripe with you or to share that.
Triangulate. Yeah,
It's
find.
weird. I mean, in the internet, it's almost like the opposite of catching more flies with honey than with vinegar. I think that the
Right.
more negative you are, the more you can attack something, the more likely it is you're going to get people that are rallying behind you in some way. But it promotes tribalism again to do that. It's like this
Yes, it
guy's
does.
wrong,
Yeah,
they're wrong, and
and
I
and
just
tribal. Can we ask? Is there any? Can we talk about the possibility? Speaking of being a little more positive, is there a sense in which tribalism is useful, meaningful, perhaps necessary? And can we take a look at some of the plus side to tribalism? Is there a plus side?
sure. Do you have some positions for that?
Well,
I'm
I would
curious.
say that I think that when we try to deal with people who are different and act as if they're not, I don't think we're being honest. I don't think we're being authentic. For example, you and I, we talk with each other, but at no time am I asking you to let's just pretend you're not an atheist, or let's just pretend I'm not a theist. We don't do that. There's a sense in which there is a distinctive group that one could identify calling them theists, and a distinctive group that you could identify calling them atheists, and each of us fit into these different groups. So, and I think that's an honest assessment. So the difference in a positive and a negative tribalism is when we exaggerate the significance of that difference And when we try to, and all cultures do this, men and women are different, but most cultures find ways of getting men to exaggerate the testosterone and getting women to exaggerate the estrogen or whatever. I'm saying that as an expression, so that we try to be overly feminine, overly masculine, so as to just make it clear, who we are. And whereas I would think that, just being yourself, if I'm just going to be myself, and I am a guy, then just being myself, I'm going to be guy enough. Just being myself. I don't have to find ways of making sure it's clear that I'm a guy. You know what I'm saying? And so I do think that there's a sense in which when we have real differences and people with whom we can align ourselves with based on how we share in common some of those differences from the rest of our culture, I think that's useful. I think that's meaningful. I just don't think we should make more of it than ought to be made. We do come from different ethnic groups. We do come from different genders. We do come from different political persuasions. We do come from a variety of ways in which we're different, and we are. And I think that
I guess I should qualify a little bit more about what I mean when I say tribalism, though. It's not that there are delineations and ways that we can identify ourselves with, within contexts and without. I mean, obviously, there's an infinite number of things or ways in which we could group ourselves categorically. When I'm saying tribalism, though, the things that promote tribalism, what I mean is the us versus them mentality, the atheist and not atheist idea that if you're not with us, you're against us. I think we've used the term circling the wagons before. I certainly agree that there's a lot of value behind multiculturalism, recognizing that people come from a large variety of different ethnic backgrounds and cultural backgrounds and political and educational and all of these other personal experiences. And frankly, every individual has a different life history than every other individual on the planet. So it's very worthwhile for us to recognize that we all, in a way, are tribes of one, and of many. We're part of huge amounts of groups, and sometimes groups that include people we've never met, such as humans. I mean, we're all human. Mm-hmm. And it certainly is valuable to look at that and to be conscious and aware of those things. But when I'm saying tribalism and things that promote tribalism, it's more a way of using those group lines, the delineations that naturally occur between us, to instead of just simply recognizing it as an imaginary border or a categorical border, trying to build a wall across that border and keeping others out.
And using it as leverage to take advantage of those who are in the outgroup.
Yes, exactly.
Exceptionalism is is along those lines. No matter what exceptionalism we're talking about, and I think we suffer a great deal of exceptionalism here in America. First of all, we have American exceptionalism, where we somehow feel that America has some sort of divine destiny. Or somehow that we are, even from an atheist standpoint, that we are somehow a superior race of people involving, a superior clan of people who have created a superior nation and are somehow entitled to first dibs at everything. So I do think that there's some American exceptionalism. I think that we are getting over white exceptionalism. I think we are getting over male exceptionalism. But I don't think we're getting over money exceptionalism. It is amazing to me how it's clear to me, for example, when it comes to money, that many times people on the corporate side, on top, in the executive side, they feel these are people making extremely important decisions to keep businesses running. And they feel that they are also risking their capital, and so that they are therefore entitled to a huge piece of the pie. Now, I hear their argument, and I certainly think that what they're doing is definitely worthwhile and necessary, and useful and worthy of remuneration. But at the same time, it's like they treat the laborer who actually creates the goods or provides the services that generate the revenue is somehow treated like some person we can just pay them minimum wage or whatever. And uh, there's this exceptionalism that somehow wants to understand that in a multiplex, in running a big business, there's a lot of things that are absolutely necessary, and the whole thing can fall apart if it gets out of balance. And to think of one particular group as especially entitled to the fruits of the labor of what that company is doing is, in my opinion, really fake business. I consider it fake business. When a guy's a multimillionaire because he owns a chain of franchises where he's got 300 employees in a particular general area, all paid minimum wage, and he's a multimillionaire. To me, that's a fake business. And I really don't. I'm not impressed with the success of that sort of thing. It really strikes me
You got
as
to be careful
being
there, Bob. You're sounding a lot like a socialist right now.
socialism has nothing to do with it. It's a matter of greed. It's a matter of devaluing the efforts. I mean, I guarantee you. Let me be specific. McDonald's. In this area, I believe there's been a few different people who've owned some of the franchises. Most of them own like a series of restaurants, maybe 15 or 20 in a particular region, and the workers are paid very low, but the people who own these franchises have really become quite wealthy. But the people who actually prepare the food, get the food out, make sure that the people are served, have to deal with the public. These people don't even have insurance coverage, or anything. And to me, that's just a fake business. And people say, well, the food would cost a lot more if we were going to not have a fake business. Yeah, it would, and it should. And maybe we shouldn't be eating so much fast food anyway. Is it good for us? I don't think so. I think even the decisions of how they prepare the food, how they mass produce it, how they get it ready someplace else, how they distribute it, even that is based on how it can generate money, not necessarily how it actually feeds people true nutrition. So I think that's another part of it being a fake business. And there's a sense in which it's relevant to the concept of tribalism, because those who have some money and can put it forward to run a business somehow feel that anything that's legal, it's almost like a financial might makes right. And there's no sense in which there's no real sense of, I see, of moral obligation to the worker, or actually the community served by the goods and services. That's just one of my personal opinions. But
I thought that was actually rather it spoke very much to me on that one. It was odd to hear coming from somebody who self-identifies still as a Republican, but that might be my tribalism speaking there.
yeah. Well, I'm certainly the black sheep of Republicans, I would imagine. And I'm not a straight-laced, point-by-point Republican by any means. I'm probably a Republican who just doesn't have good reasons for staying or leaving.
Well, that Bob actually is my exact point. Is don't have good enough reasons to stay or leave. The remaining sort of a de facto Republican in that respect. Because I think the same position that most Christians in America are in, or many Christians in America are in, is that you were raised Catholic, so you're Catholic. You were raised Lutheran, so you're Lutheran. You were raised Methodist, so you're Methodist. But they don't strongly identify with their religious heritage. A lot of people aren't even particularly concerned with the questions that religion asks or the things that it does. If you look at church attendance and participation, that's down. So I guess my real question is, half of this show's name is about a type of motivation. I mean, we're inspiring honesty, but I'd like to do more than that. Just in general, I want to look at this and say so much of what I do and of what so many people do right now is focusing on the bad things that happen and saying, look, this needs to change, but not modeling the change that needs to be. I think it was Gandhi that said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." So
Yeah.
what can we be doing to make the world a better place?
Love, you know, love, and by love, I'm not talking about affection. I'm talking about truly acknowledging the value in another being's existence and the preciousness that their existence is to them, and honoring that, and plugging into that preciousness that they need to have in terms of their own existence, and celebrating it with them. I think, you know, love is a way of, I think, modeling that. But you know, nonetheless, I do think that you know, in any movement, there are different people who need to focus on different aspects of that movement. You know, even in the healthcare, you have radiologists who, you know, they take a look inside, they view the body by using various tools that allow us to see things we can't see with our eyes. But you know, they don't do the diagnosis all the time. They might suggest a diagnosis, nor do they do the cures. You know, they don't do the treatment. Um, we tend to specialize, and I think that in invoking change, sometimes we can specialize, and I don't see that as a problem so long as we see that as a role we're playing in the entire uh, thing. So I guess what I'm saying is that sometimes it requires some people who focus on how to accurately and properly, critically um, understand some of the negative aspects. As long as a person, when they're doing that, recognizes that this is just one of the many facets to the overall picture, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. But if someone thinks that, you know, I'll tell you what, you know, I hate them believers. I hate those, you know, religion, I'm just going to put it down, and I'm going to keep on putting it down until it goes away. Um, that isn't going to be effective to begin with. But you know, I guess what I'm saying is I'm not too worried about the fact that there may be some focus on the negative, so long as the people focusing on the negative are doing that as playing a role in the overall picture, realizing that it's just a piece of the puzzle. Does that make sense?
That does actually. I think that put that into a much better context than I've been able to grasp it in, and that helped because I've been honestly struggling with this personally a bit lately, in saying, you know, that uh, am I doing the best thing I can be doing, you, with what you've just stated, you've sort of helped me come to terms with the fact that, yeah, you know, no individual can be every cog in a machine. And
No, they can't. And you know, we see it on TV. We see, you know, the on a crime drama. You see sometimes people, you know, the good cop, bad cop. Um, uh, that perhaps is overly played, but at the same time, there is some usefulness in people playing very different roles, creating for other people, you know, options. And I think that's a part of change. For example, you know, part of the way we ended that we're ending racism, there've been a great number of comedians who laugh at our races, who laugh at our own race, who make jokes that help us to kind of grow comfortable with even talking about racism. And although there are many people who were very upset over the fact that there would be uh, a lot of, say, black comedians who might be making fun of black people, or even thought it was kind of arrogant when white comedians would make fun of white exceptionalism. The, the truth is that has historically played a significant role in a variety of paradigmatic shifts that a culture goes through. When we can laugh about something, we're getting to where we can look at it and not be so bothered by it, that we can actually start to look at it more seriously when we're not laughing about it. And
I think comedians have had a huge cultural role in being able
sure,
to state the things bluntly and frankly that other people simply can't do. I mean, George Carlin and Bill Hicks and Lewis Black, these just names rolling off. Even Jon Stewart today. I would argue that
I love that guy.
a show on Comedy Central is one of the most poignant political commentaries that exists on any network, including the political commentary networks right now.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
says something in and of itself. So you're right. That's a great point.
He laughs at the way we take ourselves too seriously when it comes to our politics too, which I think is great. It's a part of it. So, but at the same time, could Jon Stewart do what he does if he was going to also make sure he's every cog in this wheel? That he's going to be balanced in every way. That sometimes he's going to be funny, sometimes he'll be very serious. No, it's just no. He's a comedian, and so he's going to focus on pointing out the obtuse, and we need that.
Thank you, Bob. That really, it's like you're a counselor or something, or like a life coach. I don't know.
Can you? Well, I used to do more of that. Actually, talking to people about decisions they're making. But can you picture it? It would not work if the president of the United States, got up in front of the people for a presidential speech and did the Jon Stewart thing. That wouldn't work. No matter how relevant or useful that kind of approach might be for someone else to do it, he can't do that, But unless it's that annual, what do they have? That press dinner where the presidents will often, get up and do a kind of a comedy routine. Some of them have been rather good. Have you ever watched those, by the way?
Yeah, I've only seen the one of them that had all the controversy last year, but I thought that President Obama did a pretty good job at that roast dinner.
I was actually even impressed with Bush when he had a Bush impersonator on there, and one of the lines on there that I still laugh about every time I hear it was that Bush was preparing to go to China. And the Bush impersonator he looked so much like Bush, and he could talk like him, and he started talking, and so the impersonator would talk, then the president would talk, and then the impersonator would talk and kind of mess up everything the president had been saying, and so the president's talking about I don't recall exactly how it went, but he was talking about something about going to China, and then the impersonator gets up and he goes and and one of the things I got to tell him is, Mr. President, tear down this wall, and of course people are the Great China Wall. We're not going to tear this thing down, but extremely funny. But it's good that that once a year, I guess, that they can do this, and that's the tradition, I guess, where they do it. But it just wouldn't work as a general leadership skill. But we need people like Jon Stewart. We need people like Greg Brahe. We do, and so now. If you're being negative because you're jaded, I think that you need to be aware of that. But just because there's a lot of negative things to say, if this is the role you're playing, the truth is there's a lot of things we need to be facing.
I have to agree. I personally wanted to say I think that we need people like Joey Livingston, because he just asked me to say that.
Oh, perhaps.
I think that you've really hit the nail on the head with that one, Bob. I'm dumbfounded with how I had not thought of that. I've been seriously chewing on this for like a week and just going like, what? Everything that I've seen has so much of a negative focus in this way or that way. But then you're right. I mean, I have only been considering the perspectives of certain authors, and it's like, well, everything to this person seems to be pretty negative, or everything needs to be, and well, if that's their role in the movement, then that makes perfect sense for what they're going to be doing. It wouldn't make sense to see Richard Dawkins writing a book that's not somehow about evolution or denial of evolution or the fundamentalists that teach
he's no longer with
creationism.
us, but can you imagine if he were to speak to his wife the way he complains about the character of God as represented in the biblical text? Sorry, that would is this his personality coming out, or is this his response as a biologist to the constant run-in he's had with religion?
That you bring that up, I have to say that is my favorite Dawkins quote ever. For those of the viewers who haven't seen this one, I believe it is from the book The God Delusion. It is
Yes.
the God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all of fiction. Jealous and proud of it, a petty, unjust, unforgiving control freak, a vindictive, bloodthirsty ethnic cleanser, a misogynistic, homophobic, racist, infanticidal, genocidal, filicidal, pestilential, megalomaniacal, sadomasochistic, capriciously malevolent bully.
Yes. Now, can you see if he's talking that way about his wife? I'm sorry, just because, honey, can you do the dishes? Well, let me tell you something about you. But that isn't. In fact, I think didn't I see a video somewhere where Neil deGrasse Tyson offered him some sort of humorous criticism, and he owns it, and he's obviously getting along very well with other people. But I think we needed that statement that he made in The God Delusion. We need that. Because, I mean, even if a person disagrees with it in any manner, it's still important that we realize that this is the way it comes across. I don't think he's lying. I don't think he's exaggerating. I think he's being very honest that when he sees this, the character presented to us, that this is exactly what he sees.
Now, part of what brings that up is that we do have the show coming up tonight with Sean Boatman, Dustin Seegers, that we're going to be talking with people from the presuppositionalist apologist camp that we've had conversations with before. And I have made, I guess, not split any hairs on the fact that I do not like Cy Bruggencate, Cy 10 Bruggencate. Just as a person, I don't like him. But we have a few other people who are coming that have the same general worldview, and that's okay. That hey, I guess I look at this and look at it as an opportunity to make new friends. And Sean and I have been corresponding back and forth on Facebook quite a bit. I've never had a conversation with Dustin before, but today I don't want to focus on the argument and the who's right, who's wrong. I want to talk more about their worldview, and hopefully we can do that. I don't know if it will work or not, but it's something that I'm going into as an opportunity, and it means a lot to me to think about the Dawkins approach and to say, like, well, if I go into this with an adversarial stance right away, I'm just going about it the wrong way. This is a new person. This is not Cy Bruggencate. This is Sean Boatman, who I've had multiple very, very friendly correspondences with.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider him, admittedly, we've not met ever on a personal basis, but I'd consider him to some degree a friend. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any misgivings about the conversation that we're going to have tonight. I'm looking very much forward to it. But I worry sometimes with, somebody say like Dustin, who's not had any experience with me in the past, might come into this and he might go to my Facebook page and see, well, inspiring doubt. That's, immediately from the presuppositionalist position, that is um, a bad word, I guess, to that.
I don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
That it might put him on the defensive right away. Imagine anybody that is coming from basically any Christian tradition walking into a conversation with Richard Dawkins after having read that last quote. And they're not coming in here going, ooh, this is going to be, a friendly and fun conversation if they're going to be talking at all about theology. And that's, I guess that what I worry about in that respect is how can we make sure that we can criticize the ideas and have these frank conversations, but still treat each other with respect, kindness, and love? Is it impossible?
Who knows? We'll find out, won't we?
Right.
I'm ready to go to see what we can come up with, and see how it goes. I don't know if we'll have any impact in changing their mind, but I think we might have an impact on perhaps getting them to see that their position isn't going to always be as easy as they would like it to be.
Well, that's not even my goal with this one.
Yeah.
We've had Eric on the show, and we've had Eric and Cy on the show, and we've talked about their arguments in the past. But in this one, I would like to just have an honest conversation and let them answer some of the challenges that we've raised to them on their own terms, and to say, to give their answers and to not. I don't know how to say this without it. I don't want it to be a debate. I want this
Right.
to be just a chat, like we're sitting around having a couple beers.
Mhm.
Is that so much to ask for, that people can talk about a somewhat charged issue without it becoming a defensive debate where we're on the
Yeah.
either on the offense or on the defense, and not just riding the fence and having a good time?
Yeah, I would hope so, because I personally consider debates to be nothing more intellectually important than a football game. I like a good football game, I suppose. I like a good, contest in sports, and I can enjoy perhaps a debate, but it's really a contest of wit, and I don't think that debates are ever won or lost based upon the merits or demerits of the solidarity of a particular point of view, but rather the skill of a person to make that 3-point shot. That's
that it took me a moment when you were like, make that 3-point shot. I'm like, that's not football. But then I'm like, oh, that's right. There is a 3-point type of scoring. And I just sorry, had a moment where I
like
revealed
Joey
my
Livingston.
entire ignorance of sports.
I have no idea what the rules of football are. When I see people out there on the field doing things that look very difficult to do, and they seem to be doing it very well, I'm impressed. That's about it.
Go you. Hey, people hate watching football with me because I'm like, wow, did you see that? That was an incredible play. Did you see that catch? They're like, yeah, it was the wrong team. Getting all upset, and it was
Yeah.
still really good. And I think
Yeah.
that's the approach I like to take in these conversations as well. Is like,
sure,
wow,
yeah.
that was a fantastic point. You're
Yeah.
right. I
I've
was
seen people do
wrong,
well.
and that's exciting. You did a great job.
Yeah, and debates are like that, So to me, if you're really if you really want to responsibly deal with an issue, don't go to a debate. If you're interested in seeing how it plays out in a duel of words and enjoy the entertainment, go to a debate. But debates are not useful tools in making a decision or coming to a conclusion.
Well, Bob, we are coming up on the end of the show here, and I did want to say one more thing. This one's sort of a direct statement to the viewers and to future guests that are on the show. I've invited plenty of people to be on this show or on other shows, and the statement that I wanted to make here is, if tonight's show does happen to turn into more of a battle of the wits, I wanted to say this: I cannot stand the level of disrespect that people are treated with in some situations, and I'm part of plenty of internet forums. The internet, with its anonymity, is a great way to see people turn into absolute jerks about anything, and to just the arrogance, the pride, the boastfulness, all of these sins that come out, to use that terminology, are um, are disappointing because they're missing the point of the issue. They're completely side-skirting the fact that we're humans having conversations with each other, and we need to be treating each other with respect. So, the one thing I want to say is this: if tonight turns into a battle of the wits, I want to say that I respect my opponents in that respect, or if they become such, regardless of my disagreement with them, and I will not resort to ad hominems or to ridicule or anything along those lines. And regardless of how silly or strange their arguments may seem, like I said, I've never interacted with Dustin before, but Sean, I have, and I've invited him to be on this show because I will not engage in a battle of the wits with an unarmed opponent. And even if even if he ends up making arguments that to me or to any other viewers seem silly, seem foolish, seem just completely absurd, that doesn't mean he's an idiot. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with him. It could potentially mean that we're interpreting things wrong, that we're not as smart as we think we are. And I think
Or that
level
he's
of
just
humility is
being
something.
loyal to a position he really feels he has other reasons to be loyal to that he can't explain to us because we're not spiritually discerning it. So therefore, in dealing with us, he's just going to deal with the issues that are there on the facade, And so, I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why they might feel that what they're doing is sufficient, no matter how absurd it may seem to us to be. So, yeah, it's
Hey,
hard
there's
to
nothing
tell.
more disheartening to me, though, than looking back through YouTube comments and things from when we had Cy and Eric on the show, or just had Eric on the show, and seeing people making personal attacks towards these people. And that's not the way to do it. That's not what we should be doing, not what anybody should be doing. And personally, if I ever see somebody doing that on my page, on my Facebook wall, or in the discussions that we have, I'm sorry, but that's a great way for you to get one warning and then just get completely banned from that, because that's
We'll,
not the kind of behavior that is conducive to what we're trying to do here. And that's
we'll
the
let
only comment I wanted to make on tonight.
we'll let the comedians do that.
Exactly. Well, on that note, this has been Inspiring Honesty. Stick around after this for The Unconventional Pastor with my wonderful co-host, Bob Greaves. And after that, for The Place with who knows how many people, but Sean Boatman and
Dustin.
I'm blanking on his last name, Dustin Seegers.
Uh-huh.
I look forward to it immensely. And that's from 8 to 10 tonight, Central Time. Have a great weekend.
Cool.
See you again, well, later or next Sunday.